Hey, and welcome back to week 3. Again, my name is Mandy Johnson. I am a physical therapist and certified athletic trainer, and the lovely lady next to me is Tammy Miller. She is a nutrition coach and also has several degrees in biochemistry, so she's a super smart lady. And we are here to talk to you today about high blood pressure. So high blood pressure is one of those things that you hear about, maybe you have it, maybe your mom has it, maybe your friends have it. And it's kind of taken a little lightly because nowadays you can just go to your doctor and he'll tell you, oh, you have another word you might hear for it is hypertension, which is just a way to say high blood pressure. If you went to medical school, we made a new word for it. So there you go. That's your new word for the day. But they'll just give you a pill, and this pill is fine. Maybe it has some side effects, but then your high blood pressure goes away. But why do we care if your high blood pressure exists in the first place? So I think that's really important to define. So high blood pressure is a problem that actually is really quite prevalent. So it's seen at least in about a third of the people walking around on the street. So if you're walking down the street with 10 of your closest buddies, 3 of you have it for sure. Maybe another one starting. So at least 30% of us out there have it. And that's really unfortunate because it's kind of one of those first signs of your body is going under some strain. So high blood pressure means that there's more force of the blood going through the arteries is stronger. And why we care is because it can actually start to damage those arteries. And there's specific areas that's really bad, like the heart, the kidney. We don't want those arteries to be damaged at all. We want all the arteries in the body ultimately to function well and function properly, but we're putting the body under strain when we have high blood pressure. There's other things that your body can be affected with high blood pressure too. It overall affects the blood flow that goes to some of the arteries that affect your shoulder. So we're finding now in research that if you have high blood pressure, you're more likely to actually have shoulder problems, which you wouldn't really think, like, why would my high blood pressure cause me to feel like I have a rotator cuff or any problems in my shoulder? But it's a sign that your body is under stress, and your muscles can actually be the first place you feel it. Because the real big problem with high blood pressure is that there aren't any symptoms. It's what they call a silent killer because it damages the things that does make your body run well. So initially, and Tammy's going to talk about this more, the big thing we thought is, oh man, we just need to change the amount of salt in our diet. It's definitely all the salt that we're eating that's causing this because, we didn't see high blood pressure like this back when my grandmother was running around on the plains in Montana because she didn't have access to the salt content that I have access to today. And, people also can use the argument of genetics as well. Maybe, it's just my genetics that I have high blood pressure and, that's the reason why you're seeing it now. But it's really more of that combination with the genetics we may have been given and then the environment of the food that we're choosing to eat. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tammy. She's going to talk a little bit more about how our diet can pull that trigger for us. So,
thanks so much, Mandy. It's very interesting to me to hear that shoulder problems can actually come out of hypertension. That's important to realize, is that it shows up in various ways, because we just hear hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and we don't actually think about the smaller little things that could be an indication of that. So that's great to know. And having our muscles working correctly obviously is something very important for just everyday movement, let alone exercise, but that's perfect. So as Mandy was saying, we didn't used to have the access to salt that we have now. And now we have iodized salt. I mean, I remember growing up, there was always salt and pepper on the kitchen table for every single meal. And I know my mom added it to the food when she made the food, because she always made everything homemade. And I know she added some to it because I have a lot of her recipes, and it always shows where there's, add a half a teaspoon of salt or add salt to taste. And then we also had it on the table, and we all added it to it. I love the taste of salt. So you put a salt shaker in front of me and I am going to use it. My dad was the only one in the family that he never touched a salt container. He still doesn't. He only used pepper. So we all have had access to salt that, as Mandy said, running around on the plains of Montana, even in bigger cities, like my grandmother grew up in Battle Creek, Michigan, they didn't always have salt on the table. That was one of those things that was an extra special thing that shows up at holidays. And so we started to see this rise in hypertension. And in the 60s, they said, well, it's salt. And this made sense because we knew people were using more salt. And it also makes sense because when your body does homeostasis, trying to keep the fluid level, trying to keep your blood level at where it's supposed to be, one of the ways that it does it is it can reabsorb salt from the kidneys, and water's passively going to follow salt. And so now you have more salt, and when you eat and it's absorbed from your digestive tract, you already have more salt in your bloodstream, and water's going to follow that. So it brings in salt, it ups the water, that's increasing the volume. That's where we're getting more of that pressure that's going through our arteries. So in the 60s, we started the DASH diet, which was to reduce salt and take salt out of things. And that's what every physician told their patients is, if you've got hypertension, just remove salt and you're going to be fine. Well, unfortunately, when you remove something that actually helps flavors to mingle in food and helps things to taste good, people want to have it taste good. So what started happening in the 70s is we started adding sugar to everything, especially things that we bought at the store, or especially things that we got at fast food restaurants. The 1970s, McDonald's was becoming huge. Burger King came out. So we started adding sugar to things because what did it do? It made it taste better. Right. And we could eat more of it. So when we add sugar, we add, flavor, but we also are adding more molecules where when those are absorbed, they're also absorbed into our bloodstream. Right. And when that happens, part of homeostasis is making sure that there are the right number of water molecules in your blood for the right number of solutes, whether it's salt, whether it's sugar, whether it's vitamins, fats, whatever it happens to be. We have to have the right amount of water in there. And so all of a sudden we're increasing the amount of sugar. Salt's lower now, but we're increasing the amount of sugar, which adds more water. Water doesn't leave as much. And current research is actually showing that sugar causes much higher hypertension than salt does. And not only that, but having too much sugar in your system causes other problems. Too much release of insulin, which can lead to diabetes, which is something we're going to talk about next week. Right. It can add to cardiovascular disease. It can add to inflammation, that is even small amounts of inflammation. So we're now showing that in research, there's actually a sugar issue with hypertension, because hypertension just kept going up, and it actually went up faster when we started removing salts and in more people than before when we did have salt in the diet.
Yeah, that's really too bad. I mean, and it's just understanding these components that I think that is really helpful. So, you took the salt, the sodium out, and the sodium they thought was what was keeping the water in the bloodstream and making it so you had higher blood pressure. But really, when we started making the food taste better so that people would eat it by adding sugar instead of salt, the same thing happened. And because the intake of sugar is even greater now than it used to be, all the processed foods, we're seeing skyrocketing levels of that high blood pressure word. So thank you so much for that. That was really informative. I really enjoyed that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, guys. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, we're actually going to be talking about diabetes mellitus. We'll mention both type 1 and type 2, what it does to the body. Mandy's got some great information about what it actually does to your body. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Yep.